Hey guys, welcome back to the Everything Rider, and today we're going on a moto camping trip. Actually, by the time you guys see this, I'll probably have already gone and come back, but this is being recorded beforehand, and so I figured this will be an overview video of some of the gear and some of the hardware that I use to go moto camping on a motorcycle that's not specifically geared towards it or designed for it. Maybe there's others out there like me who are interested or might be interested, but never really took the plunge because they didn't think that they were able to on their bikes, because they don't have one of the big full-size adventure bikes or a big touring cruiser or a sport touring bike or anything like that. So we're going to get into some things, and I'm going to give you guys an overview of everything that I use to accomplish this successfully. So let's stick around. All right, guys. So as you know, moto camping is certainly not new. It's been around for a while, and there are a plethora of really good YouTube channels with a lot of really good information from people who are far more experienced at it than myself. Many of these channels I myself subscribe to, and I have learned a lot even from watching all of their videos and applying that to my situation. The one common consistency that I see with a lot of those channels is that they're all using typical motorcycles, meaning they're either on dual sports or they're on big adventure bikes, or big touring cruisers or sport touring bikes or touring bikes. Not many people out there, if hardly ever, are doing motorcycle camping content on a sport naked bike. And I think it's because, well, they're not really what those bikes are designed for. They're not optimized for that. Sport naked bikes are more for the sport rider who wants something that's a little bit more day-to-day comfortable, but can still carve out some curves and ride in a sporty manner. And I don't think they were ever really developed with moto camping in mind. As a matter of fact, I've only really, in my YouTube journey, come across one other channel that I do subscribe to, and I've had some, conversations on YouTube back and forth with, just mostly through comments and whatnot, who is moto camping on a sport naked bike. And it actually happens to be another street triple, although it's a much more modern model. And that is Monkeywood Garage. And I highly recommend you guys go over and give him a follow if you're interested in that type of content. He puts out some really good videos. He's a little further along in his YouTube journey than I myself am, and I think the guy's great. He puts out really good videos. That being said, I've done my fair share of moto camping on my bike, and I think I've kind of perfected my camping kit to the point where it works really well with the type of bike that I have, and it doesn't leave anything on the table depending on the length of your camping trip. Most of the camping trips I've done have mostly been weekends. The longest trip that I've done was actually a 4-day from a Thursday to a Sunday, and what I was able to pack was perfectly fine. So it's really going to depend on your exact situation whether or not this will work. But if you have a sport naked bike and you were maybe thinking about trying some motor camping, maybe I can give you some ideas or show you some of the stuff that I use to make it doable and make it a lot more enjoyable. So to start, let's take a walk out to the bike and show you the hardware that I have on the bike and how I have that kitted out for when I camp the camping trip. So we'll see you outside. All right, guys, so we're out in the garage, and this is my 2014 Street Triple R. This is the bike that I do all my videos on, and this is the bike that I currently have outfitted for touring for my camping trip / touring setup, let's just say. So we're going to kind of go over some of the changes that I made to this for doing what I do. This isn't really going to be an in-depth video of every little thing that I've added to this bike. I can always do that in a different video going forward. This is mostly just going to focus on the things that I've added to this bike so that I can do more long-distance stuff and do some moto camping stuff. So we'll start up front over here by the cowl, and here you'll see a cradle that's mounted. And this is actually a Garmin GPS cradle. And that is for my Garmin Zumo 390 GPS. And the reason why I have that is because a lot of the rides that my riding group put together are done on custom routes that are created using Garmin's Basecamp program. And there really hasn't been a phone app yet that I've tried that handles those type of GPX files without some issues. If you guys know of any, let me know. So far, everyone that I've tinkered with on the phones just doesn't really do it perfectly without errors. And it's impossible to configure the options the same way that I configure the options in the Garmin where it only follows a predetermined route and won't redirect you even if you go off route. But I did pick up a Zumo 390 refurbished GPS. It is older. It definitely doesn't have all the fancy features of the XT or the XT2, but it's also a lot smaller. I don't know if the XT or XT2 would actually fit here where I have it. I might have to bring it more forward because it is a lot wider unit. But my 390 fits in right here above my dash cluster, and I can easily view it in my direct line of sight. It's much easier there than like if I had to look left or right if it were sitting on my bars, and I don't have to sacrifice a phone mount to use it because I do have the Tech Mounts stem mount phone mount for my cell phone. So that's the first bit of gadgets that I've added here for touring, and the rest are pretty much on the back. Now I do have the Shad, these are the E48 semi-rigid saddlebags. So these have a hardened shell that goes around the perimeter, so these will keep their shape somewhat even when they're empty, but they are otherwise soft bags. They are expandable. I don't know off the top of my head what the different sizes are. I will put it on the screen here because I will look it up later for the purpose of accuracy on the video. But it does have an expansion zipper here, just like your luggage does, where you can expand it out. Now, it doesn't expand completely straight out. It kind of has a 3/4, so it'll expand from the top out a little bit, but it will give you more space if you are really packed in there, crammed tight. Now, the E48s do use a bracket system here that mount them. I did modify the install of the brackets here so that I could actually remove the brackets easily without having to remove the seat. I don't run these on the bike 100% full time. I will use them, I'll say semi full time. It is kind of nice having the bags where I don't have to always have a backpack, especially if I'm riding to work and carrying my laptop and my meal prep bag and stuff like that. So that does help. But the E48s are great. They are not weatherproof, but they do come with rain covers. Now, I will say, in my experience, the rain covers kind of suck. I've been caught in the rain with these bags quite a few times. I've tried installing the rain covers a couple different ways. Every time something has gotten wet. So I'm not really sure. These didn't really come with clear instructions on how those rain covers get installed. Looking at them, they pretty much look like they only install one way. So there's not that much to really figure out there, but I haven't had the best of luck. Now, the cool thing with the Shad brackets are they do fit in multiple bags. You can use these E48s, which are more of their kind of sporty style luggage, but they also have the, oh God, I forget the number. I'll put it up on the screen, but they have a section of waterproof bags. They're actually dry bags, and they mount to the same brackets that you have here. They're not as sporty looking. They're kind of more square, definitely look more adventure bike styled. But they are full waterproof. They're roll top. They're made of a waterproof material. They are smaller than these bags, though. They do not hold as much as the E48s, so keep that in mind if you're going to do that. I do like the fact that the E48s do have eyelets here for luggage locks, so you can lock the bags if you want. It's not fully theft proof. I mean, if you fiddle with it enough, you can get these bags off. I do like the fact that the front straps here actually go under the seat. So they're locked in there pretty good, so somebody would really have to wrestle with this to really get the bags off and get that out of there. It wouldn't be impossible. Plus, they could also cut the straps, so nothing is foolproof. Plus, if you have a sharp enough knife, you can always cut through the bags. But, it helps to eliminate, crime of opportunity if you have to run into a convenience store to use the bathroom or something like that. So keep that in mind. I've also got this Rentec rear luggage rack. Now, I also did modify the install on this. Rentec designs this from the factory to be more of a permanent install, something you kind of install and then just leave on the bike. I don't want this on full time. I only use this when I have a need for it. So I kind of modify the install a little bit so that I can easily swap it on and off. I'm not going to get into exactly what I did here for the bags or for the rack, but if there is anybody actually interested, just let me know, post something in the comments, and I'll be happy to make a video on exactly what I did to modify the install of these two components here so that I can easily take them on and off. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Now, I was kind of limited on luggage rack options for this bike. There's really not a lot that exist for it. and it was pretty much my choice between this and the SW Motec rear rack. And the reason I went with this is because the SW Motec rack, it uses kind of sort of almost the same mounting points, at least in the front, but it also, basically the SW Motec bolts underneath here where my racks for the saddlebags go. So number one, I didn't know if that would interfere with how the saddlebags mount, so that was the first problem. The second problem with the SW Motec, the sport rack, I believe, is the one that they made for this bike. The rack by itself was kind of useless. It's really small and narrow, and you can't really mount anything to it because it's designed for their additional mounting plates. So once you have the sport rack, you can add their base plate for either their bags, which are very nice, or you can get like a plate to mount like a GV hard case or something like that, or even a Shad hard case. But it was just way too much cost. Once you start adding the rack, the plates, and the possible conflict of install, it wasn't worth it to me. I'd rather use this rack where I have a rear duffel bag, which of course I don't have out in the garage, but when I go back inside, I will give you an overview on that bag. And I use that on here. I can also strap my tent directly to here if I'm not using my rear bag. And if I am using my rear bag, I can strap my tent on top of the rear bag because the rear bag that I use has D-rings up top. So I can use a set of straps that I have and just mount the tent right on top of it. So it gives me some options. This is really good to tether a bunch of stuff to. It's got a lot of mounting points. It also does give you grab handles here if you are riding two up. It gives you some rear grab handles for your rear passenger. Kind of gives them a little bit of a backrest, but this is not really too comfortable. You might be able to fabricate some sort of a pad here if need be, but this is not really the type of bike where you would be using a backrest because you're kind of leaning forward a little bit anyways. But this rear luggage rack definitely helps with carrying, you know, extra accessories, chairs, tents, anything of that stuff. And I only really use this when I go camping or if I go on like long touring trips, even if I'm not camping, so I can carry extra luggage. So far, I haven't seen how large of a bag I can fit on here. My rear bag is about a 16-liter bag. It's not that big. But I would imagine you could probably fit a 20-liter bag on here or a 25-liter. It's really going to depend on the width of the bag because lengthwise, you've got a lot of room. You know, as long as you're not coming out past these saddlebags, I think it's okay. But once you get past a certain depth, you're going to have more weight trying to kind of roll off the rack, and it might be a little harder to strap down. You might have to run a tether from that bag up to like here on this bracket just to give it some backwards force. But realistically, if I had any type of larger bag, I can always mount it on the back seat. Normally, I run the rear seat cowl on this bike because I don't have it dedicated to a passenger, so you can kind of see the imprint of the seat. But when I use the luggage rack, I can't use the seat cowl because it hangs down too low on the back of the seat, and it actually hits the rack and prevents the seat from locking back in place. So when I use the rack, the seat cowl has to come off. Not really a big deal. A lot of times when I'm camping, I'm going to have extra stuff mounted on here anyway if I'm carrying extra hardware. So that's not really a big deal. So that is really it. The only other bags that I know that they make that are really good for your sport type naked bikes are the SW Motec bags. Now the SW Motec bags have a sort of similar mounting system. They have a mounting bracket that mounts to your rear passenger pegs and then just has a pole that goes out. And the lower end of the bag slides on the pole and then they go up over the seat with a big Velcro to hold them together. They're also good because they also have a solid mounting point. I'm not a huge fan of throwover bags because I think they're too, you know, loosey-goosey, and I don't want to risk anything, you know, moving in and hitting the tire. You know, with these solid metal racks, these bags are kind of mounted on there. They're not going to go anywhere, even with a lot of weight in there. So, but the reason I decided not to go with the SW Motec bags is because, number one, they're very expensive. I'm sure their quality is off the charts. Everybody raves about them. I'm sure they're really good. I was kind of on a budget when I was building this whole setup, so they were, you know, almost double the price of what I paid for these plus the racks. But it's another alternative if Shad doesn't make a bracket for your bike anymore. I know they have since stopped making the bracket for this bike. And I get it, it's a 2014, it's old. They're probably not selling these too much anymore currently for this model bike. and they're focusing on the newer stuff where they can actually make money. I get it. But if Shad does not make a bracket kit for you, you can always look into the SW Motec bag. They're very good as well. Those are really the only two options that I found for this bike. I could not find any hard case luggage for it. If they did make something at one point in time, they no longer do. This bike has an aluminum rear subframe, so you're kind of limited on the amount of weight that you can carry, and I think that's why you don't see a lot of the hard racks for hard cases. Plus, the other thing with that is that those are more of a permanent install, which is not what I was looking for. Because if I took the bags off, I could always leave the racks on, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to easily take the racks off if I didn't want that look, if I just wanted to sport around and not have any bags on there, and these fit the bill perfectly. So I have no complaints on these. They work very, very well. So that's pretty much the touring add-ons that I have. The only other piece of hardware that I have is I have the Triumph factory tail bag, but that's more of a commuter bag. It's very small, and I wouldn't be using that unless I just needed the extra space, but that does mount on top of the rear tail, and it has two little zipper brackets that mount underneath here that zip the bag on. That was given to me by the previous owner when I purchased the bike, and I've only used it a handful of times. That I can see being a good option if that's the only bag that you're using. If you're just using this bike as a daily commuter and you just need something to keep, excess hardware that's not too big, that would work fine. For my use case, I don't really use it a lot, but I do have it, so it's an option. If I need a fourth bag and I don't have something larger, that works. Guys, this is the rear bag that I use. This is actually a part of the Harley-Davidson Onyx luggage set. I just took the Harley emblem off of it because I don't have a Harley, so I felt a little bit ridiculous. But I actually won a gift card at one of the events at my local Harley-Davidson dealer, and not really knowing what to buy, I just bought stuff that I could use because obviously, any of their gear all says Harley, any of their stuff, their parts are all for Harleys. They really had nothing for my bike. So I bought some generic useful stuff that I can make use of, and this bag was one of them. So this is the bag that I use on my rear luggage rack. It is about a 16-liter bag. It's got the tethers in all four corners, front and back, that I use to loop around the rack to secure it in place. And this does have a pretty nice rain cover that comes with it. Now, on this bag, I have not had any issues with it getting wet when using the rain cover. The rain cover that comes with this bag, I feel, is a lot more higher quality than what came with the Shad bags, but you also have to consider that this is almost a $150 bag for a little tiny bag. But this is what Harley calls their day bag, I believe, on their luggage site. And it's pretty nice. It's got just enough for a little bit of extra. It's got some mole sections over here where I can either hang my first aid kit if I can't fit it in my packing, or any other accessories if I get additional mole accessories. It does come with a shoulder strap, so I can carry this if I'm out and about, and it's just like a regular duffel bag. It's pretty nice. And this pretty much completes my luggage kit for the bike. Like I said, it does have the top D-rings that I use with my straps when I am mounting my tent. If I'm carrying the tent and I'm also have this bag installed, the tent usually goes on top of this bag. I can also run the tent right in front here on the seat. So I do have options, but this is the rear bag that I was talking about when I was going over the luggage earlier. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the setup on the bike. So let's take a walk inside now and take a look at some of the gear that I have, not related to the bike, that pretty much goes into my packing setup. So we'll see you inside. All right, guys, now that we're back inside, please excuse the mess. I unfortunately don't have the best setup here for filming indoors, but I'm going to do my best to get through this here, and we'll just have to deal with it. But quick disclaimer, just with the hardware on the bike, I am not sponsored by any of these companies. I was not sent any of this gear for free. This is all gear and equipment that I purchased using my own money, and it's actually gear and equipment that I use myself on just about every camping trip. So with that out of the way, the first thing we'll start with here is my basic roadside emergency kit. And this is not specific to camping. This is something that I take with me whenever I travel, usually about an hour or further away from my house, just because In the event that I have a simple breakdown or something happen, it gives me the opportunity to, fix something or rig something up to get me back on the road and get me home before I have to worry about getting the bike towed or picked up. And that basically consists of my basic tool roll, which is just a Nelson rig tool roll that I purchased. And it's full of just generic tools, some uh, universal wrenches, zip ties, a tire plug kit. It's got a multi-tool in there. It's got a tire pressure gauge. It's got an assortment of things that I might need to use on a roadside breakdown. Generally speaking, it's not a fully equipped toolkit, but anything that I would experience on a roadside breakdown, this can probably handle. And if it's something that this kit can't handle, it's probably something I wouldn't be fixing on the side of the road to begin with, and it would make it irrelevant. The other piece to my roadside emergency kit is a electric tire pump. Now, this is a Harley Davidson pump. That's because I got it for free because I won a gift card from my local Harley Davidson dealer at one of their events. Not having a Harley Davidson motorcycle, I needed to purchase some things that I could actually use, and this is something I did not have. And this little pump is great. It fits pretty compact, and it's got a light on it. It's got a gauge. It's got an extension for the air hose if you need an extension, and it is designed to work off of your battery tender plug. You can't really see it in there, and I don't feel like I'm winding it, but this connects right to my battery tender plug on the bike. So as long as I have juice on the bike, I always have power. Yes, I know they have some of the nice ones that have the rechargeable batteries. When it comes to a tire pump, they do work pretty hard. I'd rather have something that's got always power on tap. And if you're worried about killing your bike battery, you can always start the bike and have it idle while it's working. And this little thing works just fine. We recently had a flat on my buddy's bike on one of the rides that we were at, and this thing was fantastic. It pumped the tire up really quick and did a good job. And the final piece of this kit is my first aid kit. Now, this is a compact little kit that I purchased at a firearms show that I went to a few years back. And it's a pretty comprehensive kit for being very small in size. It's got just about everything in it, including a tourniquet, which I highly recommend if you're taking motorcycle rides, because one of the leading causes of death of motorcycle crashes is people bleeding out. If it's not a head injury, you can get lacerated really bad when you crash, and this could save your life if you have it on hand. You could also tear off a shirt and use that, but I'd rather have an actual tourniquet that can be used. It's a little bit more durable, a little bit more designed for the purpose. But I highly recommend somebody in your group carry a first aid kit, just because you never know. And the cool thing with this is if I'm overpacked and I can't fit it inside my pack, it does have a mole strap. So I can actually strap this to the outside of some of my gear so it doesn't actually have to take up space inside my pack. So I highly recommend you get something that you can use. Like I said, usually the guys at the firearm shows, they sell these a lot. They have small ones, large ones. I went with a more compact one because, again, anything more severe than this kit can handle is probably not something we're going to have a good time with on the side of the road anyway. But this is really just to help somebody until better help can arrive. And a lot of times when you're riding, you might be in an area that's remote and help might not be 10 minutes away. So something to consider. One other thing that I purchased that is more for summer camping, but it can come in handy at all times, is a portable fan. Now, this is a chargeable fan. It charges via USB. It holds about 10,000 milliamp hours worth of charge, and it can also be used as a charging brick. So you can hook this up to charge your cell phone or to charge other devices if you're not using the fan. I used this past June when I went on a summer camp, and it was really hot. And I'll tell you what, I ran this on its lowest speed all night, and it produced enough airflow to keep me comfortable in the tent. It's not very noisy, and the power lasted all night. It basically has a 4 little LED display here that gives you the level of charge, and it was on full charge when I turned it on. And in the morning, it was down to about 25% charge, so that's pretty good. This one also has a solar panel on the back. So if you don't have a means to charge it, you can leave this out in the sun, and it will charge itself. And I did leave this out on top of my tent on that June camp out that morning when I left. And when I came back later in the day, it was fully charged up again, ready for me to use. So that's pretty handy. It does also have a hook that's built in the back here, so you can hang it from your tent or from something else. It's a little heavy, so I did not trust this hanging from the inside of my tent, but it does open up, so you can prop it up, and that's exactly how I used it. The fan also pivots. I don't know the brand name off the top of my head, but I will post it here. And like I said, I will have a link in the description to any of these products that I can find links for. This way, if you want to check them out, you can. Some of those links might be affiliate links, so if you do click on them, I might receive a small kickback, which does help the channel. It doesn't affect any price that you pay for it, and you'd be doing me a solid by helping me out so I can bring you guys more content. Okay, one of the other things that I bring on any trip, even if it's not a camping trip, if it's a long trip or a multi-day trip, is rain gear. Now, this is my bag for the gloves that you see here, but I packed my emergency rain jacket and pants in here because they actually fit really good. It's a little snug, but I don't have full-time waterproof gear other than my boots. And so I prefer to keep emergency rain gear in the event that I run into rain and we can't avoid it, where I can easily pull to the side of the road, pull this out of my pack, suit up, because the pants have a way to suit up right over your boots. You don't have to take your shoes off to put these on, and get back on the road. Okay, and I also have my Moto gloves here, which are waterproof. Yes, these are my winter gloves. They're actually heated, but they are also fully waterproof. So I use these also as part of my rain gear and not just exclusively for cold weather riding. Yes, they do get a little bit warm in the summer, but you kind of have to pick your poison of what you'd rather have. Would you rather have, wet hands that are soggy but not too hot, or hands that are a little clammy because they're too hot but they stay mostly dry? They might get a little wet with sweat, but so far I've been okay using them in the hotter temps without the heat, obviously, and I've been fine. So no problems there. But I always carry emergency rain gear with me whenever I travel. Okay. The next thing I carry is a small hammer. Last year, when I went to this same rally, we were in the midst of a pretty good sized drought up here in New Jersey, where we really hadn't seen any significant rainfall from like the middle of July through to like almost the middle of October. And so when I was setting up my tent, the ground was very super hard, and I really struggled a lot to get the ground stakes in. The ground stakes that come up my tent are aluminum, and they're fantastic, but the ground was just fighting me every which way it could. So after that, I promptly went and bought this cheap little camp hammer. It's very small, it's compact, it doesn't take up a lot of space, and it gives me just enough force to tap those stakes in, or it may have other uses depending on what you run into, but I primarily got it for the tent stakes, where it gives me just enough impact where I won't bend the stakes or break them, but I can get them into even very hard ground. So camp hammer, something pretty good to have. Another good item to have is a kickstand pad. Like I said, I moto camp on a sport naked bike, and sport naked bikes do not have very wide footprint kickstands because they're not really designed for off-road. And if you ever go off-road and you're parked on grass or ground that is very soft, it's very easy for your bike to sink in, especially when it's loaded up with gear. So having a kickstand pad is great. If you don't know what these things do, they take your kickstand and they distribute the weight over a larger footprint, kind of the same way that snowshoes do when you're walking on really loosely packed snow. And I highly recommend, most of these you can buy pretty cheap, or if you go to enough events, you will find enough people who give these out for free. It's a very good thing to have. I recommend you get one that has a hole in the back. Obviously, if you don't have a hole, you can always take a drill bit and drill your own hole. What that is for is it's designed for you to run some type of a cable or string from it to use as a tether. And I found this out last year, what I did not know, is when you have your bike on one of these and you're getting ready to pull away, if you're on your bike and you pick your bike up off the kickstand, you probably can't reach down to pick this up off the ground. And so having this tether allows you to pull it up off the ground, and then I usually just keep this in an inside pocket in my riding jacket so that it's ready for me to use the next time I park. But the last time I had to actually have a friend pick it up for me and hand it to me because I had no way to get it. And I was afraid to put the bike down on the ground without it just to, get off the bike and pick it up, because I figured, hey, if the bike sinks, it kind of defeats the purpose of why I had it. So I usually clip this on my clutch handle, or I will clip it wherever I can, where it'll stay up and I can easily access it. So that is huge for a sport naked bike. Now, yes, they do make some of the kickstand pad extenders. RNG Racing unfortunately stopped making the one for my bike, I believe. So I'm trying to find one out there. But for now, this is a cheap alternative to accomplish the same thing. All right. Next up on the list of most important is probably your tent. So this is my Nature Hike Mongar 2 tent. This is what is referred to as a backpacking tent. What that basically means is it is a tent that is designed for a hiker to basically carry this in strapped to a backpack. So they're very lightweight. Years ago, when I was in my older Boy Scout days, I had an old Coleman 3-man tent that packed up really large and weighed about 40 pounds. This, all said and done, weighs just a little over 6 pounds, I believe. It's really not that heavy. If you are going to Moto camp, I recommend that you get yourself a backpacking tent or a bike packing tent. And the biggest difference between backpacking and bike packing is that a bike packing tent is actually designed to be strapped to a bicycle. And what makes them better is instead of 18-inch pole sections, they have 12-inch pole sections, so they pack up a lot more compact. Your average bike packing tent usually fits inside of panniers or side bags very easily, where this is a little too large to fit inside of a pannier because this has your standard 18-inch pole sections. Now, the bike packing tents are generally more expensive than your backpacking tents for that reason. So you'll have to figure out what fits into your budget and what fits into your preference. I carry this either on my luggage rack directly, or I carry it on top of my rear bag that sits on my luggage rack. So I don't have to worry about putting this inside one of my side panniers. But if you need to, you might want to consider that. But the reason I went with the Nature Hike tent is because it got really good reviews. It scored excellent for waterproofing. And there's nothing worse than getting through a rainstorm and realizing that your tent leaks or seeps water inside. It also has a lot of mesh around the inside body of the tent. Generally speaking, if you have a 3-season tent, which is what this tent's not going to be good for you in the wintertime, is a 3-season tent. Having one with a lot of mesh area means that you will not be overly hot in the summer. It will allow the tent to breathe very well. The more solid panels you have, the less airflow you're going to get, the less it's going to dissipate that heat. So it's something you might consider if you camp mostly in the warmer weather. So this is a 2-person tent, and I personally always recommend getting one more of a person tent than who's actually going to be camping. So far, all of my camping has been solo, so I have a 2-person tent because that comfortably fits me and some gear inside. Yes, the tent has 2 vestibules on either side with either door, but I'd rather keep stuff inside the tent with me if I could, protected from all the elements, than outside, unless I have no other choice. So if you are a couple or a duo that's camping, I recommend you get a 3-person tent. If you're solo, I recommend getting a 2-person tent. Unless you really have to be super minimalist, then you can get a 1-person tent, but most of the 1-person tents literally only have enough room for you and your sleep setup and no additional gear. So something to keep in mind when you're picking out a tent. Okay. Next up from that is my sleep system. And what I have here is my sleeping bag, which is a Big Agnes EcoPark 40. Now, this sleeping bag they no longer make. They did update this, and it is now the EcoPark 35. They made it a little improved. It's designed to go down to a little bit colder temperature, but it's essentially the same bag. It's just a newer and improved version. I bought this because it came highly recommended by one of the other channels that I subscribe to, and it's a great 3-season sleeping bag. It will not keep you warm in the winter. And as a matter of fact, what I've learned about how these sleeping bags are rated, the 40 in the EcoPark 40 means that at 40 degrees, this bag is designed to keep you alive, meaning you will be able to resist hypothermic. But alive doesn't mean comfortable. So you may need some base layers in colder temperatures to help you keep warm. So far, I have not had trouble sleeping in this sleeping bag. I think I've taken it down as low as like 44 to 46 degrees, and I was just perfect. I was comfortable. and I was good. So I've had no issues with it. It's a comfortable sleeping bag. You can unzip the cover completely and use it as a quilt if you want to. Uh, no complaints so far. It's held up pretty great. It also combos with my sleeping pad, which is a Big Agnes Divide insulated. Now, they do make the Divide two different ways. They make it insulated, they make it non-insulated. I chose to go with an insulated pad because it seems to me that this is not too warm in the hottest of summers, but you would want that protection when it gets cooler out. Because the way the Big Agnes bags are designed is they do not have any insulation on the bottom of the bag. They solely rely on your sleeping pad to provide that insulation for you on the underside. And for anybody who knows their stuff about insulation, the only time that insulation actually does its job is when it's not compressed. And so if they put insulation on the bottom of a sleeping bag and you're laying on it, your body weight will compress that padding and it will lose its insulative properties. So what Big Agnes has done is they've designed their sleeping bags to actually attach to the pads, which is good in and of itself because it means that if you toss and turn a lot at night, you will not roll off the sleeping pad, which is kind of nice. And it also uses the sleeping pad's insulation as part of the total insulation of the sleeping bag. Now, you can get these with all different ratings. The Divide Insulate I got because at the time I was on a budget, and it was rated as a good budget option. And I have not been disappointed. It's been fully comfortable for me. On all my camping trips, I have not been cold or hot using this sleeping pad at any given time. So this goes hand in hand with the sleeping bag, and I do recommend it. Up from there is the rest of my sleep system, which is basically my camping pillow. Now, this is the Nemo Philo pillow. It is what they consider to be a luxury pillow because it is partial inflatable, partial foam. So most of your camping pillows are inflatable, which is why they pack up so tiny. This one also has a nice, comfortable foam padding up on top of it, which gives you a little bit more comfort. You do inflate this just by blowing it up, just like a balloon, and you can kind of, create it how you want. Some people like it a little softer, so it has a little give. Some people like it a little more firm, but it is a comfortable pillow. It stays cool. The only gripe that I have with this pillow is that it isn't very thick, and I prefer a little bit thicker pillow when I sleep. So to combat that, what I've done is sometimes I will take my actual riding jacket, which usually stays in the tent with me, and I'll fold it up and I'll stick it underneath of this pillow. And that still keeps me comfortable because I'm not laying on the jacket, but it just boosts this pillow up a little bit so that it meets my head where I find it more comfortable. I'm a side sleeper, so having that height is a little more comfortable for me. But this came as a recommendation from the Moto Camp Nerd channel, and this is the pillow that he used and said it was one of the most comfortable pillows that he's ever slept on. And I do have to agree, it is very comfortable, albeit just a little bit thin. So if you're like me and you like a thicker pillow, maybe you could buy two of these and double them up, or just find something that you can stick underneath of it to give it a little bit of a boost, and it works just fine. This stuff sack is actually part of the pillow, so you never have to worry about losing the stuff bag. It actually packs into it, and then it pulls out of it when you go to roll it up. So it's very convenient. Okay. I also do bring a pump. Now, this is mostly to blow up my sleeping pad. Now, the sleeping pads do come with a, we'll call it like an inflatable bladder. It's basically a bladder that hooks up to the fill port that you trap air in, and then you roll it down to force that air into the pad. And that works just fine. People have used that, and it's just a little bit more effort. I decided to be a little bougie, and I ordered this little chargeable pump. So this is a Flex Tail. It's definitely an Amazon purchase, and it has a light and it's got a fan. So I can use this to inflate or deflate the sleeping pad, and it does come with a bunch of different adapters, so you can fit it to just almost anything. And it also has this little hook that I can hang from the top of my tent, and I can use this as an LED tent light when I'm in the tent at night in the dark, and it works great. And I've used this on 3 to 4 day camping trips. It's never run out of juice, and I have no complaints. It holds about 4,000 milliamp hours worth of charge, and you can actually use this also as a battery bank. So if you need some emergency power to charge a phone, you can use this to charge your phone in a pinch. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not that powerful for newer phones, but like I said, in an emergency, you could do that. So this was just a nice little luxury item, and it doesn't take up very much space in the pack. So the other thing that I have here are rock straps. These straps you can buy just about anywhere. You can get them on Amazon. You can buy these from Revzilla, Cycle Gear, anywhere. These are the smaller of the two. They do make some that are a little bit thicker. These are I believe they're the 1-inch ones, and these are great. These allow you to pretty much strap anything to anywhere that has a strapping point securely. It comes with a lot of different options on how they tether. They're very strong. They are stretchy, so you can get a really good cinch down. And these particular are the black reflective ones, which I wanted in case I was riding at night. It just gives you an extra visibility point. And I have 2 sets of these that I use depending on what I'm strapping down. And these haven't failed me yet. These are very good. Once you get something strapped down, it's just as simple as unclipping it to take it off and then clipping it back on when you want to put it back on. So it's easy to take stuff on and off the bike when you have to. Okay. The other thing that I pack are matches. Packing these is a little bit safer than carrying a liquid-filled lighter. You don't have to worry about spilling or cracking. And the last time I didn't bring any sort of a fire source with me to the rally, assuming that somebody there would have a way, I realized that nobody had a way to start a fire. Luckily, somebody found a lighter, but it was a little panicked for a while, and we do like to do campfires. So I've got some wooden matches in here, and I did tape the striker to the bottle. And this is just an old pill bottle that I used, which will keep them dry and keep them protected. And it doesn't take up very much space in the pack. So it's always good to have matches. They're never a bad thing when you're out camping. There's also a plethora of other fire starting options that you can use. I just prefer these. They work good for me. Another thing I take is my camping chair. Now, this is an Amazon purchase, but it is basically a copycat of the Helinox chair. It is basically a micro chair that folds up and folds out, and you attach the actual chair material to it, and it makes a very short camping chair. It's not the most ideal. It's very low height, so if you have bad knees or if you struggle to get in and out of low seated positions, it's probably not for you. They do make some camping chairs that do sit up a little higher. Big Agnes actually makes a few. They are considerably more expensive. Like I said, I was on a budget, and this chair was budget friendly, and it also holds over 300 pounds worth of weight, which definitely takes care of me. Thankfully, I'm not that heavy anymore, but it is something I don't have to worry about ripping and tearing and breaking for a larger person. The only thing that I will say about this chair is the bag that came with it sucks. The zipper on that bag broke on me on like the second time that I used it. So now there's a different bag that I have purchased that I use for this chair. The bag that comes with it is garbage, unfortunately. That's just kind of some of the stuff you run into when you try to save a few bucks. Moving on, I do have my electronics pack, okay, which basically consists of a battery bank. Now, this is a large battery bank. This is a Smile Palo. It's definitely an Amazon buy, but it's got 26,800 milliamp hours worth of charge. It can charge up to 5 devices at once. It holds a very good amount of charge. I have charged multiple things with this, and this battery pack also doubles as a spare battery pack for my heated jacket if I am traveling in colder weather and I'm using my heated jacket by Moto, because it can run off their battery pack, or it can run off of a universal pack as long as it meets the power and charge requirements, and this one does. Now, this is just a cheap little bag that I purchased just to keep all my charging stuff organized. So I keep the battery pack in one side of it, and on the other side of it, I keep a variety of different cables for all the different USB hardware I have. I do keep my wall charger if I go to a place where I have wall charging. I carry some extra locks, luggage locks, and stuff like that for the bags. So it's just kind of like an everyday kit. Being a content creator, I do carry my camera, a bunch of extra batteries and stuff, plus my phone. So I do need a way to keep the charge up, especially if I'm not in an area that has plug-in power. So that helps out a lot. All right, and last but not least is probably the funniest item I have here. But here I have disposable urine bags. And yes, the name of the company for these is Pee Relax, which I think is kind of chuckly. But at my current age, it's very rare that I can sleep through the full night without having to use the bathroom at least once, maybe twice. And when you're camping in a tent, it's a pain in the ass because, I prefer to sleep in my sleeping bag, usually in my boxers. So if I wake up out of a sound sleep and I have to use the restroom, the first thing I need to do is put something on, shorts, sweatpants. I'm a guy, so I can go without a shirt, even though I don't want to scare people that way, but it's doable. But I at least have to put on shirts, shoes, slippers, something like that, so that I can walk around, and if anybody else is up, I'm not, walking around in my skivvies. Yes, we're camping, we're in the woods. We could always go find a tree and do our business there, but a lot of the places that I camp are not uncharted woods, they're actually campgrounds, and so there's usually multiple people there. So you don't really want to be peeing in the woods right around a bunch of tents with a bunch of people, possibly children also, that can see that. That's definitely a no bueno, and those places will frown upon that. So rather than having to walk from my tent all the way up to where the bathhouses are, which might be close, might not be, I chose to do some research, and I found these disposable urine bags. And these have some sort of a gel or a powder in them that will take your urine and it converts it to like a gel, so you can throw it out. But these basically hold 1,000 cc's of urine. And I'm not sure exactly how that math works out with the average human bladder, but I can say that I have not overflowed one of these bags yet, and they work really, really well. They say that you can use these male or female. I'm not a female, so I can't really help you guys with that. I don't know how difficult that would be to use. But they come in a pack of 6, and basically you have just a tall bag. It's got a hard plastic funnel, and it has a Ziploc type zipper. And what you do is you basically can squeeze it and hold it open. You do your business, you seal it up. They say to wait about 60 seconds, and then you can throw it away. And typically what I'll do, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to go to the bathroom, I will break out one of these bags, which is handy if I'm on my sleeping bag. I will get up onto my knees because I can't stand up in my tub. I will do my business. I will seal the bag. I will unzip the tent and throw the bag out in the vestibule of the tent for the night. And then when I wake up in the morning, I will literally take the bags, carry them over to my nearest trash can, and dispose of them. And I have to say that these are fantastic. These will also be good if you are on long touring rides and not actually camping, where if you need a roadside bathroom and you don't have one available. They can be a little discreet. You walking off the side of the road and standing by a tree, everybody can look and kind of knows what you're doing. If you're standing kind of covered near your bike and you're just looking down, they might not know what you're doing. And it's a good, easy way that you could give yourself a little bit of relief. Hey, these would also work on long car drives too. We can't always get to a rest stop or a convenience store where we can make use of a fully functional bathroom. So far, this is the first year that I've used these, and I have to say they are fantastic. They're not expensive, and it just makes it easy so that I can wake up, do my business, go back to bed, and I don't have to traipse through a campsite, at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever it may be, making my way up to the restrooms. So that works for me. So that's pretty much it, guys. I will try to put links in the description for all this stuff that I can find links for. This is just all the stuff that I use on a moto camping trip with my Sport Naked bike to have a successful and fun moto camping outing. If you guys have any questions, please put them below in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. If you want a little bit more in-depth reviews or in-depth dives into any one of these products, whether the products here or any of the hardware on the bike, let me know. I'll be happy to make a video. And until then, thanks for checking me out. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.